Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We finished with the external features of the forebrain and midbrain. Now we will start with the external features of the hindbrain or rhombencephalon. And we know that the hindbrain comprises of pons, medulla oblongata, and cerebellum. In today's lecture, we will start with the external features of the pons. Now this is lateral view of the brainstem and cerebellum. Above you can see the midbrain. Below the midbrain is the pons, and still below the pons is medulla oblongata. So these are the three parts of the brainstem. Posterior to the pons and upper part of the medulla oblongata is the cerebellum. Now the midbrain, already we finished with that. Now we will discuss the external features of the pons. Now you can see posterior to the pons is cerebellum, and posterior to the upper part of medulla oblongata is cerebellum. And already you know that the cerebellum is connected to the midbrain by a pair of superior cerebellar peduncles. A pair of the superior cerebellar peduncle. Now, because this is lateral view, so you can see only one superior cerebellar peduncle connecting the cerebellum with the midbrain. Then again a pair of middle cerebellar peduncle. A pair of middle cerebellar peduncle. This is, suppose, middle cerebellar peduncle of one side, and the other will be on the opposite side, connecting the cerebellum with the pons. Then again a pair of inferior cerebellar peduncle which connect the cerebellum with medulla oblongata. A pair of inferior cerebellar peduncle. Now you can see between the pons, upper part of the medulla oblongata in front and the cerebellum behind, there is cavity of the fourth ventricle. This is cavity of the fourth ventricle, and you know it communicates with the third ventricle through cerebral aqueduct, and it communicates with central canal of the medulla oblongata and spinal cord by central canal. Now each pons has two borders and anterior surface and posterior surface. superior border and inferior border. Now there is a lateral border also, at which the pons is continuous with the middle cerebral peduncle, and which is not well defined, but I will explain later on. Lateral borders, 2 in number. Right and left. Right lateral border and left lateral border. These were the borders of pons. Then it has 2 surfaces. That is anterior surface and posterior surface. Now we will first describe the anterior surface of the pons. Above the pons is the midbrain. This is ventral surface of the pons. Above the pons, this is midbrain. And below the pons, this is medulla oblongata. So above, the midbrain enters into the pons, and from below the pons, medulla oblongata starts. And then you can see behind the pons and behind the medulla oblongata is the cerebellum. So on each side, we will be able to see right and left cerebellar hemisphere. This is right cerebellar hemisphere. And this is left cerebellar hemisphere. In the middle part of the cerebellum, that is vermis and parts of the right and left cerebellum hemisphere are obscured by the pons because pons is located anteriorly. Like in this diagram, you can see anteriorly the cerebellum, anteriorly is the pons and posterior to the pons is cerebellum. So you can see parts of the right and left cerebellar hemisphere. Middle part you can't see because anterior to the middle of the cerebellum, pons is located with fourth ventricle intervening. Now here, this is anterior surface of the pons. So ventral view. Anterior surface of the pons. Now, if you look to the anterior surface of the pons, you can see above is the superior border and below is the inferior border of the pons. Now, as I told you before, pons has two borders. Superior border and this is inferior border. This is midbrain, and you can see the right crus cerebrus and left crus cerebrus with the interpeduncular fossa in the center. So this is superior border of the pons where the midbrain enters. Then this is inferior border of the pons below which medulla oblongata starts. Now this inferior border of the pons is also known as the pontomedullary junction. Junction between the ventral surface of the pons and ventral surface of the medulla oblongata, pontomedullary junction, this at the inferior border of the pons. Then on each side I told you there is lateral border which is ill-defined. Why? I told you that the cerebellum is connected to the pons by middle cerebellar peduncle. So here will be the middle cerebellar peduncle, right middle cerebellar peduncle, and left middle cerebellar peduncle. So the cerebellum is connected to the pons by middle cerebellar peduncles. The right cerebellar hemisphere is connected to the pons by right middle cerebellar peduncle, and left cerebellar hemisphere is connected to the pons by left middle cerebellar peduncle. So this is middle cerebellar peduncle on both sides. In this diagram, you can see the middle cerebellar peduncle arises from cerebellum and join the pons. So here again, right middle cerebellar peduncle and left. These peduncles enter the pons along its lateral border. Therefore, it is not easy to differentiate between the anterior surface of the pons, then lateral border, and then anterior aspect of the middle cerebral peduncle. But the emergence of trigeminal nerve here will help us to differentiate between the anterior surface of the pons and middle cerebral peduncle. Here there is attachment of trigeminal nerve by two roots. The trigeminal nerve emerge from the anterior surface of the pons by two roots, sensory root and motor root. This is suppose right trigeminal nerve roots and left trigeminal nerve roots. Trigeminal nerve is the fifth cranial nerve. Now this is sensory root. And this is motor root. Of trigeminal nerve. Fifth cranial nerve. The trigeminal nerve have a surface attachment to the anterior surface of the pons by two roots, sensory root and the motor root. Remember, the motor root is medially located and the sensory root is lateral to the medial root. So medial root medially, sensory root laterally. Sensory root of the trigeminal nerve and motor root of the trigeminal nerve. And this side again, this is sensory root and this is motor root of the trigeminal nerve. This is sensory root and the medial one is the motor root of trigeminal nerve. Now can you see the surface attachment of the trigeminal nerve is close to the anterior surface of the pons and middle cerebral peduncle. In this way, surface attachment of the trigeminal nerve will help you to identify that this is lateral border of the pons. It is just lateral to the attachment of sensory and motor root of the trigeminal nerve. So pons has superior border, which is at the junction of ventral surface of the pons and anterior surface of the midbrain. Lower border is also known as pontomedullary junction. It is at the junction between lower border of the pons and upper end of the medulla oblongata. Lateral border is between anterior surface of the pons and middle cerebral peduncle, which arises from the pons and enter into the corresponding cerebellar hemisphere. So here will be the lateral border. So how you will identify the lateral border of the pons? That is just lateral to the origin of sensory root and motor root of the trigeminal nerve will be the lateral part of the pons. That is, it is the junction between middle cerebellar peduncle and anterior surface of the pons. So these were borders: superior border, inferior border, right lateral border, left lateral border. Right and left lateral border are at the junction between pons and middle cerebral peduncle on each side. Superior border is the junction between pons and midbrain above, or inferior border is between the pons and the medulla oblongata below. Next, surfaces of the pons. Now this is anterior surface of the pons. It is convex from side to side and convex from above downwards. Convex from side to side and convex from above downwards. The ventral surface of the pons is convex from side to side and convex from above downwards. The interior surface of the pons is not smooth. It shows transverse ridges and vertical ridges. Not shown in this diagram, but in the original brain specimen you can see it is rough. It is small transverse ridges running from side to side and vertical ridges running from above downward. These ridges represent what that we will explain when we will discuss the internal features of the pons. Now in the middle of the ventral surface of the pons there is a wide sulcus. This sulcus is known as sulcus basilaris. Sulcus basilaris. A vertical, wide, shallow sulcus traversing the middle of the ventral surface of the pons. It is known as sulcus basilaris. Now, what is this sulcus basilaris? It is due to what? Now, I'll explain in this diagram. Now, I'll draw the ventral aspect of the brainstem again. This is ventral surface of the pons. Above it is the midbrain. Below is the medulla oblongata. And on each side, you know, the right and left cerebellar hemispheres. Crus cerebri of the midbrain. And this is medulla oblongata. Now, two arteries enter the cranial cavity through foramen magnum, that is right and left vertebral arteries. Now this is vertebral artery. Suppose this is right vertebral artery and this is left vertebral artery. Now these arteries run upwards and immediately along the side, then front of the medulla oblongata, and reaches the lower border of the pons. You can see this is lower border of the pons and this is upper border of the pons. Now when the right and left vertebral arteries, they reach the lower border of the pons, right vertebral artery, left vertebral artery, when it reaches the lower border of the pons, these two arteries join together to form basilar artery, where at the lower border of the pons. And when this basilar artery reaches the upper border of the pons, it ends by dividing into right and left posterior cerebral arteries. This is basilar artery ascending in the middle of the anterior surface of the pons. So I will repeat. The right and left vertebral arteries, they enter the cranial cavity through foramen magnum, run upwards and medially. When the right and left vertebral arteries reaches the lower border of the pons, these join together to form a single vessel known as the basilar artery. The basilar artery ascends about the middle of the anterior surface of the pons. And when the basal artery reaches the upper border of the pons, it ends by dividing into left and right posterior cerebral arteries. Posterior cerebral arteries. Now in this way you can see here the basilar artery starts. The right and left vertebral arteries join here at the lower part of the pons to form basilar artery, and this basilar artery ascends over the middle of the anterior surface of the pons. When it reaches the upper border, it ends by dividing into right and left posterior cerebral artery. So this sulcus basilaris, this is a shallow groove caused by the basilar artery. This is why it is known as the sulcus basilaris. So what are the features of the anterior surface of the pons? I told you it is convex from above downward. It is convex from side to side. It is above bounded by the superior border where the midbrain enters the pons, and below is the inferior border or pontomedullary junction from where the medulla oblongata starts. On each side, the pons is connected with the cerebellar hemisphere on each side by middle cerebellar peduncle. This is right middle cerebellar peduncle and this is left. So the junction between middle cerebellar peduncle and anterior surface of the pons there is lateral border of the pons, which can be identified by a surface attachment of the trigeminal nerve, which has a sensory root, which is laterally located, and medial root, which is medially located. So just lateral to the attachments of trigeminal nerve roots, if you draw a line here, this will be the lateral border of the pons, that is junction between the anterior surface of the pons and middle cerebral peduncle. And in the center of the anterior surface of the pons, there is a shallow groove known as the sulcus basilaris. Along this groove, the basilar artery ascend. So this shallow vertical groove on the ventral surface of the pons is because of basilar artery. And in the last lecture, I told you here there is a cistern, cisterna pontis, if you remember. Here, cisterna pontis. I told you there are some parts of the subarachnoid space which are wider. For example, the cerebellomedullary cistern was here between cerebellum and posterior surface of the medulla oblongata. And there was interpeduncular cistern here, which was occupied by the cercophyllus. Now here, anterior to the anterior surface of the pons and medulla oblongata, here there is the cisterna pontis, and this cisterna pontis contain the basilar artery and parts of the vertebral artery. So content of this cisterna pontis, which is a large subarachnoid space located here at the junction of pons and upper part of the medulla oblongata filled with cerebrospinal fluid. This cisterna pontis contain the basilar artery and parts of the vertebral artery. Now we will discuss the posterior surface of the pons. What are the external features of the posterior surface of the pons? The external features of the posterior surface of the pons. Now we will draw the posterior surface of the pons. Now about the pons, you know, there is midbrain, posterior surface of the midbrain. Now you know the midbrain is crossed by cruciform sulcus, having a longitudinal and vertical parts. Here there are four swellings collectively known as the corpora quadrigemina. Individually these are known as superior caliculi, and inferior caliculi, a pair of superior caliculi. And a pair of inferior caliculi. These are superior caliculi. This is suppose right superior caliculus, and this is left superior caliculus. Below that, inferior caliculi, a pair of the inferior caliculi. pair of inferior clavicle separated by cruciform sulcus. Then I told you that the lower part of the longitudinal portion of the cruciform sulcus ridge starts, known as the frenulum velli, and on each side of the frenulum velli is the attachment of trochlear nerve. This is right trochlear nerve and this is left trochlear nerve. Below the pons is posterior surface of the pons. This is posterior surface of the medulla oblongata. This is posterior surface of medulla oblongata, and this is posterior surface of the midbrain. And this is posterior surface of the pons. So you can't see the posterior surface of the pons and posterior surface of the upper part of the medulla oblongata unless and until you cut all the 6 peduncles and remove the cerebellum. So when suppose here was cerebellum, so in this diagram we have removed the cerebellum to expose the posterior surface of the pons and posterior surface of the upper part of the medulla oblongata and posterior surface of the midbrain. Now, our topic is what are the external features of the posterior surface of the pons. So we will concentrate on this part of the brainstem, that is posterior surface of the pons. Thus, above the pons is posterior surface of the midbrain, below the pons is the posterior surface of the medulla oblongata, and this is posterior or dorsal surface of the pons. Now, in the middle of the posterior surface of the pons, there is a sulcus, known as the median sulcus. Median sulcus because it is in the median plane, dividing the posterior surface of the pons into right half and left half. Now, on each side of the median sulcus, there is a elevation, elongated ridge on each side on the posterior surface of the pons. Vertical ridge, one on the right side and one on the left side. This is median sulcus, which descends in the middle of the posterior surface of the pons. On each side of the pons there are vertical ridges. These two vertical ridges are separated from each other by median sulcus. Now this vertical ridge is known as the medial eminence. Medial eminence. This vertical ridge on the right side is called medial eminence, and this is on the left side medial eminence. So between two medial eminences there is median sulcus. So median sulcus is present in between the right and left medial eminences. Now this longitudinal ridge known as the medial eminence is laterally again bounded by a slight sulcus on each side. This one is known as the sulcus limitans. Sulcus limitans. Now, this is medial eminence. In the lower part of each medial eminence, again there is a rounded swelling. It is further raised on each side. Now you can see this is medial eminence of one side, bounded medially by the median sulcus and laterally by the sulcus limitans. Then another medial eminence bounded in the median plane by median sulcus and laterally by the sulcus limitans. These longitudinal raised parts are known as the medial eminences. Now, over the lower part of the medial eminence, again there is a swelling on each side. This is known as facial calculus. Facial calculus. This is right facial calculus and this is left facial calculus. These are further raised areas on the lower part of the medial eminences on each side. Just like in the midbrain, these are two superior calculi and two inferior calculi. These are called facial calculi. This is right facial calculus, this is left facial calculus. Now, at the upper end of the sulcus limitans, here there is a bluish area. At the level of upper end of sulcus limitans, there is a small bluish area. just an area, not elevation. At the upper end of sulcus limitans. This is sulcus limitans, and at the upper end there is a small blue area on each side. This is known as locus coeruleus. Locus coeruleus. Again, I will repeat, at the upper end of the sulcus limitans, on each side, there is a blue area known as the locus coeruleus. It can be seen with naked eye, especially in fresh specimens, because here the neurons contain, again, melanin pigment, which give visibility to these areas with naked eye, locus coeruleus. Then, just supralateral to the facial calculus, at the level of sulcus limitans, there is inverted V-shaped depression. At the level of sulcus limitans, on each side, level of sulcus limitans, just lateral to the facial calculus, on each side, is an inverted V-shaped depression. This is known as superior fovea. This is superior fovea because here, when we will discuss the posterior surface of the upper part of the medulla oblongata, here will be the inferior fovea. So superior fovea is on the posterior surface of the pons, inferior fovea on the posterior surface of the open part, upper part of the medulla oblongata. So on each side, inverted V-shaped depression at the level of sulcus limitans, known as the superior fovea, right and left. Now here, just above its junction with the upper end of the medulla oblongata, here there are bundle of some white fibers. Or the lowest part of the medial eminence, just above the upper end of the medulla oblongata. The posterior surface of the lower part of the medial eminence, just above the lower part of the pons, at its junction with the medulla oblongata, there are few fibers which emerge from median sulcus and pass upwards and laterally. These are known as stria medullaris. Stria medullaris. Remember, in the last lecture, we talked about the nerve fibers along the amygdala and caudate nucleus. Those were known as stria terminalis. These fibers, which emerge at the lowest part of the median sulcus and run laterally on each side of the lower part of the surface of medial eminence, is known as stria medullaris, close to the junction of posterior surface of the pons and upper end of the medulla oblongata. Now, if we cut the sixth cerebral peduncle, then the fourth ventricle will become more visualized. Now, for example, we remove the peduncles. to expose the fourth ventricle. Now you can see this is cavity of the fourth ventricle. And this is the aqueduct of Sylvius. And this is central canal of medulla oblongata. So the third ventricle communicates with the fourth ventricle via Sabel aqueduct, and the fourth ventricle communicates with the central canal of the medulla oblongata and spinal cord, and here with the subarachnoid space. Now you can see the fourth ventricle has a floor and roof. This is floor of the fourth ventricle, and this is a roof, tent-shaped roof. Can you see the tent-shaped roof of the fourth ventricle is formed by anterior cerebellar notch, and the floor of the fourth ventricle is formed above by the posterior surface of the pons and below by the posterior surface of the medulla oblongata. Thus, the posterior surface of the pons form the upper or pontine part of the floor of the fourth ventricle, and the posterior surface of the upper part of the medulla oblongata forms the lower or medullary part of the floor of the fourth ventricle. So here you can see now that this red one is the pontine part or upper part while this green one is the medullary part or lower part of floor of the fourth ventricle. So as we were discussing the features of the posterior surface of the pons, the posterior surface of the pons form the upper or pontine part of the floor of the fourth ventricle, the red color. And below this green color, the lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle is formed by the posterior surface of the upper part of the medulla oblongata. Therefore, it is known as the medullary part. So above pontine part of the floor of the fourth ventricle and below medullary part of the floor of the fourth ventricle. And you can see this tent shape, this is the roof of the fourth ventricle, and this is the cavity of the fourth ventricle. So The posterior surface of the pons form the upper or pontine part of the floor of the fourth ventricle. Now, what are the nerves attached to the midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata? Cranial nerves. This is middle cerebral peduncle on each side of the pons. And this is midbrain, ventral surface, and this is medulla oblongata. So, to the anterior surface of the midbrain, oculomotor nerves have surface attachment. Third cranial nerve. Oculomotor nerve. Is attached to the ventral surface of the midbrain, emerging from the medial surface of right crus and left crus. Then the trochlear nerve, which is the fourth cranial nerve, in this diagram you can see is attached to the posterior surface of the midbrain. Trochlear nerve attached to the posterior aspect of the midbrain. The oculomotor nerve, it is the third cranial nerve, and trochlear nerve, it is the fourth cranial nerve. Then from the ventral surface of the pons, close to the middle cerebral peduncle, the fifth cranial nerve arises by two roots, sensory root and motor root. On each side. Trigeminal nerve. Which is the fifth cranial nerve. Now this is pontomedullary junction. Junction between the anterior surface of the pons and medulla oblongata. Three cranial nerves have surface attachment here. Sixth, seventh, and eighth. At the pontomedullary junction, this is sixth cranial nerve. Then this is seventh cranial nerve, and this is the eighth cranial nerve. Sixth cranial nerve. This is the abducens nerve. Seventh is the facial nerve. Eight is the vestibulocochlear nerve. So these three cranial nerves, the abducens cranial nerve, then facial cranial nerve, then there is vestibulocochlear nerve on each side. At the pontomedullary junction, they arise. These were the surface attachments of the nerves. Now there is another very important topic related to it. This is a lateral view of the midbrain and pons. Medulla oblongata, and this is cerebellum. Now here there is an angle. Which is known as the cerebellopontine angle. CP angle. Now, what is this cerebellopontine angle? There is a small depression here known as the cerebellopontine angle. So you can see this is pons, this is cerebellum. Above is midbrain, below is medulla oblongata. Now what are the boundaries of this angle? Now, here superiorly at this level is the upper border of the petrous part of the temporal bone. You know, brain is in the cranial cavity, and inside the cranial cavity there is petrous part of the temporal bone. So above, what is this? Superior border, the medial third of the medial 1/3 of the superior border of petrous part of temporal bone. This is border of the petrous part of the temporal bone at this level. Then is upper part of the cerebellum. Another boundary is the upper part of the cerebellum. This is number 1. Then number 2. the upper part of cerebellum. This is number 2. Then lower lateral part of the pons. This is pons. Lateral part of the anterior surface of the pons. This is number 3. What is the third boundary? That is lateral part of anterior surface of pons. This one. This is the anterior surface of the pons, the lateral side. Here is upper part of the cerebellum, and this is the bony landmark, that is the medial third of the upper border of the petrous part of the temporal bone. Now can you see here, there is a slight depression. This is called cerebellopontine angle. Now what are the contents of this angle? Number B. Contents. These are boundaries. Now we will talk about the contents. What are contents here? Now this is pontomedullary junction. Here I told you is the surface attachment of sixth cranial nerve. Then here surface attachment of the seventh cranial nerve. And here is the surface attachment at the pontomedullary junction, eighth cranial nerve. Just before I explained the attachments of the nerves. So at the pontomedullary junction, there is a surface attachment of 3 cranial nerves from before backwards. Near the median plane, first it is the 6th cranial nerve. That is the abduction nerve. Then behind it is the surface attachment of facial nerve, 7th cranial nerve. And still behind is the attachment of 8th cranial nerve, which is vestibulocochlear nerve. Vestibulocochlear nerve. Now can you see? This is the boundary, green one is the boundary of this angle. So can you see? 2 nerves are here. We are talking about the contents of this angle. What are the contents? Number 1 is the facial nerve. And number 2, vestibulocochlear nerve. Two cranial nerves in this angle. 7 are facial nerve and vestibulocochlear or 8 cranial nerve. The 6th one is outside this angle. So what are the contents? Origin of these 2 nerves, facial nerve and vestibulocochlear nerve. Then labyrinthine vessels. Labyrinthine vessels Labyrinthine vessels. These are the vessels which supply the internal ear. So what are the contents of this angle? Origin of the facial nerve, origin of the vestibulocochlear nerve, and blood vessel. Which blood vessel? Labyrinthine vessels. Labyrinthine vessels supply the internal ear. These were the contents. Now next, what is the clinical importance? First, we talk about the boundaries of this angle, CP angle. Then we talk about the contents. Now, what is the importance? Now, whenever there is tumor of the neuroma of the vestibulocochlear nerve, tumor of neurylema of the vestibulocochlear, I mean to say 8th cranial nerve. This tumor of the neurylema of the vestibulocochlear nerve is known as schwannoma. You know, the myelination of the peripheral nerve is by cells known as the Schwann cells. Yesterday I told you myelination of the tracts, including the optic nerve, is by oligodendrocytes, and myelination of the rest of the peripheral nerves is by Schwann cells. So whenever sometimes a tumor arises from the Schwann cells known as the schwannoma. So as you know that the vestibulocochlear nerve is in this angle. So when a tumor arises from the Schwann cells of the vestibulocochlear nerve, it will first involve the vestibulocochlear nerve, then it will compress the facial nerve, and then it will compress the labyrinthine vessels. The vestibulocochlear nerve supply internal ear. It is for balance, equilibrium. And the internal ear is also nourished by the blood vessel called labyrinthine vessels. So internal ear will be affected. Next, pressure of this tumor, schwannoma, will also compress the adjacent facial nerve, and there will be the signs and symptoms of facial nerve compression also. So this is the clinical importance of this angle. This is called the cerebellopontine angle. Can you see it include part of the cerebellum and part of the pons? And what are the boundaries? One boundary is bony. It is formed by the medial 1/3 of the superior border of the petrous part of the temporal bone in the cranial cavity. It is close to this area. Then this is the second boundary, which is crossing the upper part of the cerebellum. Then this is the third boundary, which is crossing the lateral part of the anterior surface of the pons. This depression is called the cerebellopontine angle, and its contents are vestibulocochlear nerve, facial nerve, and the abducens nerve and labyrinthine vessels. And when there is tumor of the vestibulocochlear nerve, naturally it will compress all these contents of the angle. This is the importance of this angle. Thank you very much.